and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast channel. My name is Jed, and we are in philosophical midwifery again today. Last time, and welcome to the new chatters. And this hat is a bit silly, but let's roll with it today. Last time we were discussing how we can recognize where and when our blocks come up. As a general guide, when is there an urge or a desire or a feeling or a functioning that jumps in to stop the logos, stop conversation, stop the reasoned reflection about the nature and cause of either the most significant questions that we can ask: why are we here? What's the nature of the soul? Where do we go when we die? What should we be doing while we're here? What's the meaning of life? What's our destiny? All the sorts of questions that we ask and wonder about and come to answers in philosophy. The other side of the coin is, when do we want to shut down conversations that allow us to reflect on the patterns, the nature of, and the causes of our problems? Either way, that is a block to the logos and evidence of what may be a pathologos. We talked about how it's important to recognize that even when we are functioning in midwifery, because otherwise we will notice our problems jumping up even as we function as midwives. Why? Because the more important the activity you're engaged in, the more likely your pathologos block or your problem will surface. Also, it gave us, as we saw last time, another fantastic reason to play the best, most fun, awesomest game in town, philosophy. Why? Well, because philosophy is literally climbing the ladder of the logos. Climbing the ladder of understanding and states of mind or experiences of self and reality. And that's necessary because you need to do that to surface the full depth and breadth of your own problem. In other words, if your goals are small, you might only face small expressions of your block or your problem. Therefore, we have to keep going to surface more of our problem, to get to the core of it, so we can really become free of it. So, we need to be doing philosophy along with the study of philosophical midwifery. Otherwise, we might not surface the full nature of our problem, and which we need to do to apply midwifery to fully become free. And of course, that's what we're here to do. And Socrates tells us about that. He says our job here is purification and perfection. This would be the purification of what's false. And if it's the same dialectic that you apply to both, then we are learning both sides of the single art of dialectic. And last time we were reading that that's one of the goals. One of our goals in the text, as we were reading in the opening chapter, one of our goals was to show that philosophical midwifery is a mode of psychotherapy. And the other goal is to show that it's consistent with the philosophy of Plato. What does that mean? That means that the art that Plato writes about from Socrates, the art of the dialectic, can equally be seen and applied to philosophical midwifery. So, and welcome to the new chatters who are joining me. I apologize if OBS was a bit funny when we started, but we're here now. So, interesting. And we have to unpack the last chapter of the opening the last paragraph of the opening chapter. Now, this is important because this is the structure of the text. There should be puzzles or promises given to us in the conclusion of the opening text that should guide us in our reading. If it's a good text, these should be answered as we go by the text itself. Our job is to look for the puzzles. Look for the puzzles and the promises in the opening to see how they go. So, with that in mind, let's jump in and read. This is where we left off. Again, recapping last time, Pierre in this book is going to present a synoptic vision, or an all-at-once vision, a unified vision that he's been reflecting on in his entire life, and we've seen how amazing his life is. He is the Luffy of spirituality, if you're a fan of One Piece, and functioning at a higher level intuitively for a very long time, and helping people remove their problems in meditation, being given the Dharma stick to be the next Pope of Buddhism, developed a form of psychotherapy that works, that's new for the human species, and so on and so on. Done a lot. And his job in this book is to put it all into a single vision. So hooray for us. So he did this by, first of all, primarily wanting to understand himself. And, okay, let's read this. Efforts to understand myself, I have evolved this work and developed the practice of philosophy that can assist others to understand themselves. Surely you know, and this is the interesting thing, we know that many people deny man can understand himself. A lot of black pills or doomer people or nihilists or people who are disillusioned with our ability to understand ourselves and solve problems. But philosophical midwifery offers a new way to reach understanding that can overcome such doubts. So we may doubt that we can understand ourselves fully, which includes understanding our problems. Many in the spiritual traditions say you can't understand. Understanding is a sickness. Just let go of thoughts, says most Eastern spiritual traditions. And in the Western academic traditions, you can't know the nature of yourself and the reality and God. These are unknowable. Only physical things seen through your physical senses. So, most people, most traditions claim this, but we can overcome these doubts with a new way of understanding. So, pray for us.
Wow. Wow.
Okay. It is commonly argued that man cannot understand himself because it is thought that understanding itself is too weak. We are just little people with little understanding. It can't reach the big divine mind of God. Right? That kind of crap. And especially if the self is beyond even God or the divine, because even the divine has a selfhood. So that therefore the self must be higher, more primary. So in philosophy, we recognize that as the first hypothesis of Parmenides. Then, of course, we can't understand the self, they say. Further, some go on to argue that since we know that we have repeatedly deluded ourselves, how can we have any confidence in any method, since it's failed again and again? And often we talk about atheism. Some people, when they start to think for themselves, think critically, they realize that whatever religion they grew up in, you name it, falls short, especially because religion means to believe, or religion means bound by a saving belief, and the nature of that belief is in the category called supernatural belief or faith, which is rationally absurd because it's a belief that cannot be proven. You just have to have faith. You can't prove that Mary was a virgin, famously, or to believe something that you're told to believe that has been disproven by evidence and reason. We know the earth isn't 5,000 years old, but there are many religions who tell you you have to believe it. Don't trust your mind. Your understanding is feeble, but our understanding is mighty. Right? So when people realize the absurdity of just believing others and not developing your own understanding, and all the problems they've suffered because of being forced into religion from childhood, that's how people get religion, from childhood. They think, well, if I've been deluded time and time again, and especially if my loved ones are deluded time and time again and think that this is good, then maybe there is no understanding. Atheism. There is no if these people who claim to speak for God under the umbrella of religion are all liars and con artists and grifters and have been for millennia, maybe there is no understanding of the divine. So how can I have confidence in any method of understanding the divine if it's failed time and time again? So that's just an example of atheism. It's a conclusion based on that. A lot of people realize, well, actually, okay, just because these people are wrong doesn't mean everyone is wrong, and they become agnostic or open-minded. And hopefully they come across this channel and they get into Socrates and the Logos, which we only have been able to do for the last 10 years or so because we've only had a translation of Socrates that has been accurate for that long. So we have to reawaken philosophy. That's the name of the channel. And when we hear the name of the channel, we do a dance. Nothing's going to keep us down from reawakening philosophy, the name of the channel, and picking up where we left off with Socrates. And that's what we've been seeing here. We've been reading here also. We're returning to the Platonic vision, not the Socratic vision, Plato's vision. And what distinguishes Plato from Socrates? This. There's evidence that Socrates was a philosophical midwife with problems, but Plato wasn't. And not easy to understand why not, when you know that Plato was about 26, I think, when Socrates was murdered for his official charge was believing in a daemon. His second charge was making the weaker argument sound stronger, which is another way of saying disagreeing with our stupid opinions and embarrassing us through reason. No, actually, Socrates never embarrassed people. He was very charming and kind. They didn't like where the Logos led them because of their pathologos, blind allegiance to their false beliefs that they forced them to reject reason and understanding. But the second charge was to believe in a daemon, which is the inner voice of the Logos. Now, it's important to recognize in philosophical midwifery, we mainly, we do both, but we recognize there's two, what we call the negative daemon and the positive daemon. The positive daemon is that inner voice that's quiet, difficult to hear. And Socrates says his inner daemon never told him what to do, but would warn him when he was about to do something he shouldn't. And it's mentioned in a lot of his dialogues. The Alcibiades especially, mentioned a lot in the Phaedo. But the negative daemon is the one that's louder, that we can recognize as, in midwifery, perhaps the voice of the pathologos maybe, shooting us down. You are not good enough. You are inadequate. These things here, your understanding is too weak to understand the self. Well, you are no good. Maybe Socrates could understand the self, and maybe his teacher Parmenides, but not you. You are dumb. That's why your whole family treated you that way. That's why your school treated you that way. That's why, and so on and so on. It's a way of making sense of the injustices we suffered. And hey, if you were wrong about so many other things, Of course, you're going to be wrong in understanding the self. Our predicament is fundamental to our nature, says the argument, says that inner voice, if we have internalized it personally. You are just a bad person in your nature. So we call it a negative daemon because it's negative, it's not true, and it's undermining our ability to share and participate in the logos. But it's also helpful. That's part of the quest in this book. How can we see that even the voice of the pathologos serves an important beneficial function? Why is it important for there to be a voice that keeps alive the problem you have? Forcing you to have to address it, without which you might ignore the fact you came as a soul into this world with a false belief about the self that's preventing your spiritual development and your further growth, your spiritual evolution, and your ability to remain in those spiritual dimensions. Something's keeping alive the problem you are here to address. Not only that, if we are here to master this dialectic thing, and we only do side A, which is what is the logos, what is the self, which we do in philosophy, then we're neglecting a whole half of the dialectic. Because the dialectic, as we see on the board, contains what if. To do a dialectic, you have to do what if X is. So what if you're doing a dialectic on beauty, what if beauty exists? And then you also have to do what if it doesn't exist. You have to do both sides. So famously, the hypotheses of Parmenides, there are 9. There's his first hypothesis of the oneself. That's what we've been talking about in the text, the thing that people say you can't understand. But after Parmenides gives the hypothesis of the oneself, that's beyond even experience, he gives 4 more hypotheses. What if the oneself exists? Because we just said the ultimate first cause, the oneself that Parmenides recognizes as himself, is beyond existence, because there has to be a cause of even existence. So this is the second hypothesis. What if the self exists? By the way, that's the highest experience of enlightenment. So, and this is usually what we're after when we do dialectics on the things we do dialectics on in philosophy. What is beauty itself? What is justice itself? What is virtue? These are things that exist in the realm of being. So other than Parmenides' first hypothesis on the self, the oneself, the dialectics are on things that exist. That's what is mean. It exists. Not in the physical world, in the existing world that always is. So, if beauty exists, define it. How does it function? How does it divide up? From this process, can you come to a conclusion? Can you take that conclusion back to the start? So we've been learning how to do the dialectic. But you also have to do, what if beauty doesn't exist? What if beauty is only physical? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Or beauty is a physical characteristic because of genes or something. So, if that's what we do with all of our ideas, we have to also do it with the self. So we forget the nature of reality, so we have to master the dialectic on what is, but also we need to have some voice within us keeping our problem alive, our pathologos alive, so that we can apply the dialectic to what it isn't, because that voice isn't the self. It feels true, it sounds familiar, and maybe even comfortable, but it's not. There is something that within your soul that will not tolerate an injustice against the self, and therefore will keep alive your problem, which will function or demonstrate itself in your negative states of mind. Will divide up into every area of your life. Allow you to come to a conclusion from all these divisions. Oh, I guess I was right when I believed X, Y, and Z about myself, because look at all of the evidence I have. And then, so the second part of the fourth category. So you come to a conclusion and you take it back to the self. Therefore, I was right. A self-fulfilling prophecy. So that's kind of why we say it's a daemon. It's divine and beneficial. Obviously, it's causing our problems, which is negative, so we call it the negative daemon, but it's for a good reason if you take a step back and you realize this is what we're here for. So, a bit of extra information for no extra charge. So, that's personally, but back to society, that's what we're challenging with philosophical midwifery. Society's belief that we can't understand the self, or that our predicament is because humans suck, or we're innately sinners, or we are just animals, or something like that. It's fundamental to our nature. We have original sin, something like that crap. The argument goes because it's not possible to determine whether or not one has understood oneself. How do we know we've really understood ourselves? Sounds like you're in Parmenides, buddy. But Parmenides is famously called the greatest book never read, so a lot of people don't know about the Parmenides, and those that do haven't read a real translation, because you need to be in the Balboa. You need to be in the Balboa. And thank you to Balboa. That's for one, Balboa, for being the best in translating the text according to the actual ancient Greek, and not through the societal ignorance and individual pathologos of translators. So keeps the Greek. What understanding can't detect, the conclusion goes, cannot resolve. How do you know you've really understood the self? Therefore, you can't resolve a true understanding of the self. Says this argument against understanding. Another way this argument expresses itself is, as there is no specific experience of the self, as we just said about the first hypothesis, it is beyond and the cause of experience, then no one can know the self. Or the claim that one can know the self, know thyself, is the axiom, the motto of the ancient Greek culture. It's an empty claim, right? We hear like a lot of spiritual people say, Eastern spiritual people say that the Atman is empty, or you can't understand the self, or you can't know the self. All you can know is emptiness, and that sort of thing. However, the reality is, that philosophical midwifery is able to surface these beliefs that were previously hidden from our view, and it offers us a way to understand the formation and the network of those beliefs. Hooray! And balloons? No, fireworks. And it achieves a okay, so this is what we were really after. We can understand the formation and network of the beliefs that were previously hidden from our view that cause our blocks, and upon understanding and surfacing them, thumbs up, good for that, achieves a resolution from the problems based on those beliefs. We can understand and remove our problems That's why we're here. Welcome, and good to see you here. You right there. Good, that's why you're here. Okay, let's keep going. Thus, it can be claimed that philosophical midwifery is the art. So this is a question. Hopefully, we carry this as we read. What the heck is art? Because this guy is saying at the end of the first chapter, it is an art. So hopefully we carry a question. What the heck is art then? And hopefully he gives us some material to answer that question. So this is our koan and our mantra, to use the terms from earlier in the chapter. Now, it's not exactly a koan or mantra because it's rational and we're not given it by someone else. It's actually in the text, we're just reading. So what the heck is art is a question we'll carry with us as an adventurer.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
You're a wizard, Harry.
The art for delivering man, okay? Delivering man of false beliefs. So that's the word midwifery, not delivering babies, but delivering false beliefs. It brings us to share in a new insight into the human condition. That's good. Don't we want a new insight into the human condition, as well as being delivered from false beliefs? Yes. Because it sheds light on the perplexing. Okay, what does it do? It sheds light on the perplexing problem of just why man. Okay, whoops. Why man has achieved so much in other areas, yet remains immature and irrational within himself. That is a big question. Hey, we have computers and iPhones and tablets and internet and AI, all this wonderful technology. Why? And we have nuclear weapons. Boo for nuclear weapons. And why do we say boo? Because we have all this technology and stuff in other areas, but we're so gosh darn immature and irrational within ourselves. We don't seem to be doing the work of understanding the causes of and addressing those problems. We seem to be doing the same thing we always do with the war and the exploitation and the capitalism and the wealth inequality and the war machine and banking and all these things that are obviously terrible and exploitative and keeping people impoverished, keeping human beings suffering, keeping the planet on the brink of destruction, hurting the planet, polluting the environment, doing genocides again and again and again. It seems like we are so freaking immature and irrational within ourselves, despite having all this wonderful technology we have developed. That's the issue. That's the perplexing problem we are going to shed light on. Now, those of you who have watched along to this stage might already have a hypothesis about this question that you are likely going to carry with you. Well, if philosophical midwifery is new, that means we haven't had it. It's missing. And if philosophical midwifery is the method of surfacing false beliefs that were hidden from view and that causes our problems, understanding them and freeing ourselves from them, then the reason we are immature and irrational might be we haven't applied ourselves to the same level of integrity to this, the logos, applied to not just what's true in reading Socrates, which we haven't been doing since the academy was shut down. We've been doing the European philosophy, which is all bollocks. That's a bit harsh. It's all materialism and personal opinions and conjecture. Even to this day, we think philosophy is, the way we're taught it is, hey, it's the love of opinions. Kant's opinions and Hegel's
Have you read
opinions.
Brand at all? Have you read Nagel? What about Scanlon?
So we talk
Have
this
you read
way.
Scanlon or Scruton or Edmund Burke? Have you read C.S. Lewis? Have you read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? Have you read Immanuel Kant? So you know Pflicht.
What has this got to do with Bob's Burgers?
Do you practice self-love in a Kantian sense? Do you masturbate to Kant? Have you seen Infinity Wars? Have you even seen Age of Ultron?
Okay, this is what we get taught philosophy is, and it's not. And in our other channel, we realize why that's the case. We have, since Socrates' death and the Dark Ages, where the philosophy was banned and so on, replaced with, hey, all this understanding, boo for that, just to have belief in us authorities telling you what to do. And those were the Dark Ages. Everything went to crap. So, these are all possible hypotheses you can have about why we are so irrational within ourselves when we have all this technology. Why did we drop the logos? And why are we not doing midwifery? Well, good news for us, we can pick up the logos in this series. If you're watching on Twitch, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can see all the past YouTube series where we actually read the logos and pick up where Socrates left off. And if you're watching this one, good for you, you're doing the other half of the game. So, it is not understanding that has failed us. This is the conclusion that we're going to see in the text. It's not understanding that has failed us. Rather, it is we who have failed to understand. So, understanding was quite capable all along. Don't blame understanding. Now, Socrates does say this in the Phaedo as well. This is the worst problem you can have. Socrates, this is the worst problem you can have. This is the greatest defect of the soul. To blame understanding itself, or to blame or hate or revile the logos, which is what we understand and how logos is understanding, and the paradigm and the method, and it's all of it. It's the logos. That's what we're after. Socrates says specifically, don't just believe these things I tell you. Looking at you, academic philosophers, but develop the art itself. Because what will happen is, hey, like we said before, you will be tricked by lecturers, by parents, by priests, by media, people who push the right buttons, things that will sound probable or familiar, and then you will end up hating the logos because you've been conned again and again. But it's not the logos that is at fault. Socrates says it's your inability to have, it's because you have not yet mastered the art of the logos. We must be vigilant and on guard against blaming understanding or the logos itself and not our inability to use it masterfully. Now that's what was said in the Phaedo. Here we are saying it to the other side of the game. Our problems. Socrates says the reason why it's in the Phaedo, why it's the greatest defect is if you don't follow the logos and trust the logos and then develop the art of the logos, understand the logos, and go beyond understanding to nous and phronesis and so on, then if you hate the logos, you won't ever reach truth and being, the realm of being. That's why it's the greatest problem. Now, we're getting the other side of the coin here. It's not understanding that can't not reach truth and being, purify ourselves from the false beliefs about truth and being that cause our gosh darn problems. It's true to exploit people. There is no realm of being, or being is heaven and hell and stuff. These false beliefs about truth and being and self. Okay? Same thing, but to the different side of the coin. So this is what we said. We're going to show that this midwifery is consistent with the Platonic system, tradition. So it's not understanding that's failed us. So don't go burning books or murdering intellectuals like Pol Pot or Hitler. It's we who have failed to use and do it and master, well, as Socrates would say, master the art of understanding itself. So another way of a perhaps more accurate word for what philosophy really is, philosophy, philos sophia, the love of wisdom. A more accurate definition might be philodianoia, the love of understanding. Understanding being, dianoia. We have to use the word dianoia because we don't have an English word for that.
Wow.
All right, so not understanding has failed us, it's we who have failed to understand. All that was needed, oh, there we go. What did we need this whole time when we're doing all these terrible things in history? All that was needed was, let's highlight this, see where we go. What did we need the whole time? All that was needed was a method to chart our way through the workings of the mind. That's what we needed, says this text. Now we need to make sure that the rest of the text shows how this has to be true, because our job isn't to believe it. We trust at the beginning, and we've got freaking good reasons to trust from all of what we've read about this guy so far. Okay, and there's lots. Not just the Pope of Buddhism stuff and the Dharma stick and enlightening people without realizing it and developing a form of psychotherapy that actually works and curing alcoholism and teaching comparative philosophy with Alan Watts and studying with all of these gurus from different traditions and surpassing them, and not just all of that stuff. I mean, yeah, all that stuff, but got lots of other reasons as well why we're trusting this guy. But understanding is what we have to do. So why is it that all we needed was a method to chart our way through the workings of the mind? 2, to identify the forces that seem to hold man fast to... Oops. So we needed a method to do what? Chart our way through the mind so that we can do what? Identify the forces that seem to hold man fast to ruinous cycles of behavior. Yeah. What kept us doing stupid, terrible, ruinous things? I just rattled off a list of things we're doing right now that is obviously and objectively ruinous cycles of behavior. How about war and wealth inequality and capitalism and fascism and lying on TV, claiming it's news, and miseducating people through our Latin-based education systems and not by reading the text. Lots and lots. A justice system that just punishes the poor and doesn't apply the rules to the rich to maintain a status quo and never addresses problems. So all of these things that we listed, the justice system, what does it fail to do? Identify the forces that cause the ruinous behavior so we can address them. What does education system fail to do? Chart our way through the mind to identify the cause of the things we're interested in being, or false beliefs about being. Socrates says this is how he discovered philosophy. When he was learning, they're all physics people. They're all looking at physical causes. Even the guy who said that mind is a cause dropped it almost immediately and went back into the physical world. That's our system today, even still today. Or does it fail to address the actual causes? Mind, consciousness. We make decisions based on what we think is good and true and beautiful and just. Where are those things? Not at school. So we don't get to the causes of our behavior, both justice and beauty, and our problems. So the problem with the justice system, the problem with our education system, our political system. Are we addressing the causes of our ruinous behavior in capitalism? No. So why do we have all the problems? Simple. We are not using a model to chart our way through the mind to identify the causes of our ruinous cycles of behavior. That's all. That's all. Where are we going to find a model then? Please, sir, can I have a model to how to chart the way through the mind to identify the cause of our ruinous behavior in every institution and within myself as a soul? Who knows if humanity is going to catch on, but at least I can do it for my spiritual evolution beyond this lifetime. Please, sir, can I have this model? Why, yes, you can. Really, sir? How can I have this model? It's philosophical midwifery! You're doing it right now, young boy! My son, you are doing it right now! Oh my word, Governor, that's fantastic! Hurrah! Get me the biggest turkey to celebrate, young boy! Alright? That's what you should be saying right now. If you are a street urchin from early English, I don't know, Dickensian times. Hi, welcome to the chat. I don't know, Tuani. Welcome. Good time to jump in. What are we doing on this channel? We are doing the very thing that was lacking within human culture that's caused our repeated cycles of ignorance and injustice. Oh, you're from Romania. Welcome. So going back to the start of this chapter, we're right at the end of the first chapter of the book. Oh, not do that. And let's go back to the beginning. How do I scroll faster? I don't think I can. Okay, let's just do this. So I like this theme. Oh, thank you. So this book is called Philosophical Midwifery. It's a new paradigm for understanding human problems. And what we're doing is reading how it began. And all the way back in World War II, the author was fighting Hitler, and he was walking down a road on a patrol one evening, and he realized that he was walking down the same road to defeat the Nazis, the exact same road that the Roman soldiers were walking down to defeat their barbarian enemies. And he said, hang on a second, there's something wrong here. We are stuck in a cycle of repeating the same problems over and over again without addressing them. And he went on to realize that this was not only the case for our, he was walking down, and he was walking down on patrol in the middle of World War II, and he said, I just realized something. We are in the same European trap that we've been in for hundreds of years. We're not learning anything. And his mate said, shut up, the Nazis will hear us. And he went on to develop a purely rational method of asking questions about the problems we face individually that prevent us from reaching our most meaningful goals and cause all of the human problems, well, this class of human problems we have. And so we've been going through, and you can find the series. I think we're about 8 episodes in. You can find these all on YouTube. Here we go. We've gone through it already. And after the end of the war, he lived a life like Forrest Gump or Luffy, where he ran into all these big figures like Alan Watts, and who is a famous, one of the earliest Western intellectuals to study Eastern spirituality, very famous on the internet. He studied and lectured with Alan in San Francisco. He studied with various gurus like the Lama Tada and Jiming Shen in Chinese philosophy and Hindu philosophy, and Paradis Churudai. I don't know his names. So he's done lots and lots and lots. But pretty much what he discovered is there is a way of understanding. Actually, this is the conclusion that we just read. He was given the Dharma stick to make him the next pope of Korean Buddhism. which is weird because he's a white American guy. Many Korean Buddhists do not like that. Okay, so what are we doing? We are philosophical midwifery, which what we're learning about is able to surface the beliefs that were hidden from our view, offers us a way of understanding how we developed and maintained the false beliefs that cause our repeating cycles of problems, individually and culturally. So it allows us to ask the question, why has man achieved so much in other areas, yet remains immature and irrational within himself? It's not understanding that's the problem, it's our inability to have used it. We have failed to understand. So all that was needed, here's our solution to the problem of man. All that was needed was a method to chart our way through the workings of the mind, to identify the forces that seem to hold man fast to ruinous cycles of behavior. So if you notice you have a problem, and I hope you do because you're a human being, everyone gets one, or one that manifests in many different ways, then congratulations, you are a human being. And also it's good to hear that there is a model of understanding that will allow you to surface the formation and supporting networks of your problem, allowing you to resolve them, delivering man from the false beliefs. It's an art. So we're wondering, what exactly is an art? And how is this an art? Okay, so we needed a model to identify the cause of our ruinous cycles of behavior, both individually and as a species. It's no good just having the intelligence to make a nuclear weapon if you don't also address how you're going to use it. The false beliefs of what you think is good and just and that aren't. And how do you address them? And how do you use technology to pretty much do what we're here to do? Which would be this. So instead of having a political system based on my opinions as rich people should be richer, well, my opinions is you should be nice to people. Let's fight about them and debate about them and vote about them. Makes no sense. If you were going to a doctor, you wouldn't say, you seem to be an expert with knowledge and experience and understanding and study in medicine. But maybe I should also talk to someone who has no understanding and has just a bunch of false beliefs about medicine. Maybe I'll take a vote. I'll look to everyone in the waiting room and say, hey, what do you guys think? Where should the surgeon make his incision on my appendix? Who votes above the blockage? Would make no sense. It's stupid. So what are we missing? A model for how to understand the mind and therefore our reason for being here. So every political system would just be the same thing. How do we best do this? Use our technology and resources to meet the universal human needs of all people sustainably and rationally and renewably in harmony with each other and the planet, so that we are all free from work so that we can do what we're supposed to be doing, this. Mastering the art of philosophical midwifery so we can identify the forces that hold all human beings to their problems so we can learn and evolve and become free. And then when we are free of our problems, what do we do with the remainder of our time? Tune into the other a video series on the channel where we read Plato. We've freed ourselves or purified ourselves from what is false about self and reality and the good, so that we can master the art of dialectic applied to what's true. The same model, charting our way through the same workings of the mind to discover what's true about self and reality and the good. Same thing. And that was our goal that we mentioned earlier here. Our goal was to twin goals. We have twin goals in the validation study that's in the book, to demonstrate that midwifery is a mode of psychotherapy, but also that it can be reconciled with Plato's thought. So, simple. Now, it sounds obvious once you've said it. So it's important that we say it lots to our friends over coffee. Now, normally we have a fun game where when I say over coffee, we have a sip of our coffee. But my coffee is noticeably absent. So let's finish this and then we'll have a break where we can top up our coffee cups. All right, so all we needed was a model. And a way to resolve. Okay, let's keep going. And a way. So that was a brief introduction for our Romanian friend. And a way to resolve the problems that lie at the basis of irrational behavior. Why do we act so irrationally? Why are there so much fascism? Why does capitalism exist when it's obviously terrible and exploitative? Why do we destroy the planet we live on and no one seems to care or do anything about it? These are irrational behaviors and we need to resolve the problems that lie at the basis of it. We need a model to do so. That's what the book offers. Hooray! So, as we saw in the text, this new age that we're moving into is a new age of understanding the self. Sure, that's there. But he also said specifically we are moving into a new age of let's see if I can search for it. Age. Yes, here we go. This new age is one of dialogue. So that's what we're moving into, which is nice because dialogue is fun. And, oh, it was really close. And the dialectic is what we're learning, which is the art of using dialogue. I'm curious to, I have a couple of 20 questions to ask you. Oh, great. We love questions here. Now, questions are important. Carry the questions as we go because we are, and please share them too. This is us. This is what we are. This is philosophy. This is us. See? Looks like you. He has the Romanian hat. That's all the trend in Romania right now. So we are an adventurer. That's what it means to be a philosopher. Oh, you have to go to bed. Okay, well, keep those questions with you in your question sack in your inventory. To have a question is to be on a quest. And I'm glad you liked it. And join the Discord if you want. Fellow adventurers. But glad to see you. This is what we're doing here. This is us. Hello. Hello. What do you have to say?
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
Oh, see, he talks. He sounds like Gandalf. All right. So we needed a model to identify the forces that hold us fast to our ruinous cycles of behavior and a way of resolving the problems that lie at the basis of said irrational behavior. There is little doubt that if these claims that are made for philosophical midwifery can be supported, this is the last paragraph. So this is really the, I don't know, the guiding light, the North Star, the onward to adventure, sailors. If you're a One Piece fan, pirates onwards. Let's get the One Piece. This is what we're after as we're reading. If it's the last paragraph, the last paragraph of the first chapter is very important in reading, as we discover while we read Plato. There's little doubt that if these claims can be made for philosophical midwifery, whoops, what's going on? Oh, no, not that. Oh my goodness. Okay. Dun 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 dun. If where's my pen? This one. Okay. Here we go. If the where's the color? Here we go. Let's go. If these claims that are made for philosophical midwifery can be supported, you see, if these claims can be supported, our confidence in reason and understanding will be justified. Right? So we're challenging these old societal beliefs and maybe personal beliefs that you can't understand everything, you can't understand God, you can't understand the self, you can't understand problems. Now, last time we talked about it's a continuum. It's a continuum. We can see that there are some very stupid people who very early they say you can't understand that. And the meme is magnets. The Insane Clown Posse meme from like 10 years ago. Magnets, how do they work? You can't understand magnets. It's a miracle. It's magic. Right? I don't know if they were pretending to be dumber than they are or if they're really that simple. I don't know the Insane Clown Posse. If they're just sort of, if it's an act. But we also know the Dunning-Kruger effect. Right? The dumber somebody is, the more they think they've got it all figured out. In other words, anything that they haven't understood is not understandable. You can't learn medicine. My medical opinion is just as good as a doctor's. You are a bit dumb. Or closed-minded, let's say. Or there is a false belief that is causing irrational behavior in you. Anyway, so it's a continuum. At what point do you say that there can't be understanding? Is it magnets? For most of us, no. For the Insane Clown Posse, it's yes, but only them. Everyone knows magnets can be understood, right? Is it the whether or not the Earth is round? Okay, again, very low. But then, okay, can you understand how to play music? Is a good one because we have that on this channel, understanding music. Now, some people say, "Oh, you can't. There is no understanding of music. It's all feel." Really? Tune into our channel. Okay, you can understand music, but you can't understand, I don't know, the weather. A Jordan Peterson sort of thing. Climate deniers. Now, I don't think they believe that. I think they're just getting paid to say that from big oil companies, and they're grifters. But there are some people who say, "Oh, who you can't understand the environment," blah blah blah. But these are all very low. But then there are people who are like, okay, you can understand those things, but you can't understand the nature of reality. You can't understand what happens when you die. You can't understand the meaning of life. You can't understand the divine or God. You can't understand the self. And the self would be right up the top. So everyone's different. Everyone has a different level at which the you can't understand voice or negative daemon jumps in. Another way of saying everyone has their own block. The question is, at what point along this continuum does your block come up? And we talked about this last time, because even if you're doing midwifery as the midwife, you might go along, help people get rid of this block, 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 get rid of this block. Uh-oh, that's as far as I can go. And then you start making excuses. You're a bad patient or something like that. You're not really interested, or you're lying about your dreams, or you can't participate, or you stink, or you're just sick and incurable. You've got Satan in your blood, or anything. There are lots and lots and lots of different ways, and I've heard a lot of them because I've been in this game for 20 years. I've seen a lot of midwives and been involved in a lot of midwifery. There are many, many different ways in which they say, shut up. No logos beyond this point. Now, of course, midwifery, if the higher we're functioning, the more towards this end we are functioning, the more likely we are to trigger our block. So if a midwife has dealt with all these blocks up to here, and midwifery is an important goal, and it seems to be the most important goal, from what we've read so far, considering what we just read now, then it's going to trigger your blocks. That's why we have to establish principles of, hey, when your block comes up, keep an open mind, keep courage, and address the same questions yourselves. Now, dealing with Pierre and the Noetic Society for a long time, they have tried to set up those principles themselves. I haven't seen it done often. And there are reasons for that we'll get into later. But it's a principle. Otherwise, the principle is you can only midwife somebody up until the point you are, unless you are willing and open enough to follow the logos. So it's not you that's doing it, you are following the logos, or the method and model for charting our way through the mind to identify the forces that keep us stuck in our ruinous cycles of behavior, and also the same model to resolve those problems. If you're following the model, you're golden. Otherwise, you have this problem. But if these claims we are making in this first chapter, that should be validated, and we should be given the information and the evidence to solve these questions, which is why we are this guy here. That's why we're this guy. We're carrying our questions, and we're carrying an if sack. See that if sack? That's our possible hypotheses, possible answers to the questions we carry. We're not going to get blindly attached to one. We're going to keep making them and see what works out the best. That's the pattern. That's the quest. That's the open mind. That's the koan. That's the way of reading we're doing. That's the true hero's journey.
You're a wizard, Harry.
All right, so if these claims can be supported, we have confidence that our confidence in reason and understanding can be justified. And he is making the claim that you can go all the way to here. You can even understand that which is beyond experience, the self. And also our problems. All of these blocks along the way to our problems themselves can be understood and resolved. And that, he is saying, is a way of addressing this big question we've had, which is how come man has achieved so much in computers and internets and lots of things, but seems to be so freaking stupid within his own mind? Why are we not addressing the false beliefs? Hey, look, Elon Musk obviously has some terrible false beliefs. Donald Trump, obviously same. Why are we not using a model to chart the formation of those false beliefs through his life, in his childhood? Both had very racist parents, by the way. Coincidence? Considering how they function now? Why are we gosh darn immature? Why can we chart the progress of a college basketball player since high school, have every single assist and shot understood and mapped out, have his propensities to go left, to go right, to use screens, to have three-point shots? Why can people have an encyclopedic knowledge of something so mundane as basketball for like high school players who sometimes don't even make the NBA, or college football players, but we seem to not apply it to what's most important, the mind? Why is it only round ball or sports ball, as they say? Well, the answer being suggested by the text is this. We just lacked a method and model of applying that same sort of interest and integrity and fascination to what's most important, the cause of our irrational behavior and what ties us to the repeating cycles of ruinous behavior, just like the Nazis that Pierre in the 30s or 40s recognized was the same thing that the Romans were doing. We're stuck in a loop. Interesting. By the way, those two people I mentioned a while ago, do they have Nazi leanings? Are they also racist and fascist? And are propped up by a system that, like capitalism, that supports that kind of ideology? That repeating cycles of ruinous behavior? Are we failing to address it as a species? I don't know. Well, the claim is yes, of course we are. But that's what we're learning here. a way of, hey, and it may be that there isn't enough time to turn the ship around, to introduce simple reason or the logos or this model. Hopefully there is, and our species will just go extinct like the many other species that have on our planet. Hopefully not. But even if it does, we can still do it for ourselves. That's why we're here. But also talk about it. Share it, because hey, let's you know, keep humanity going and live in a wonderful, rational, logos exploring, fun, free way. I mean, why not? I mean,
come on, man.
Come on, man. Let's do that. Come on, man. Let's just be fun and free and do what we're here for.
Come on, man.
Come on. And instead,
I don't want to eat a monkey.
Like, you don't want to eat a monkey, like Joe Rogan always says.
I don't want to eat a monkey. I don't want to eat a monkey.
I don't want to eat a monkey. I want to live in a free, rational society. All those things we said, living sustainably, using the intelligence to sustainably and renewably meet all human needs without any need for work, because it's doable and rational, so that we can spend our time doing this. So, spit out that black pill. Don't be a doomer. Do this instead. Or in other words,
I don't want to eat a monkey.
Don't eat a monkey. Okay. So if we can support these claims, and the text should, we can have our confidence in reason and understanding justified. It's important that we verify it. Accordingly, we will set out the reasoning and evidence. Hooray! We will set out the reasoning and evidence that will show. What will it show? That, let's do this better. That will show that philosophical midwifery is a plausible account of human behavior, which can be confirmed in our experience. Okay, you can confirm this. Hopefully you're doing it. And as we learn, we do it more. And actually see what happens when you do it and you become free of your problems. Confirm it in your own experience. Now that's the dialectic, of course. And as we read, we're trying our best to apply the dialectic as often as we can, wherever we can, because that's the model we're using. We need to gain a familiarity with it so that when we see later on in the text, we can recognize it and help us to understand what we're reading. That's the game, the art of the dialectic, the art of the new age of dialogue is the art of the dialectic. So here is our model, our friendly model. Our SOs or our DDAS, two ways of understanding it. So we are not just defining this needed model and method. We are ourselves demonstrating it. You need to do both to verify in our own direct experience what we are defining. Not only that, we need to test it out in division. How does it affect all the other areas of your life? How does it help your learning of philosophy? How does it affect your relationships? How does it affect your other meaningful goals? Can you apply this dialectic and understanding to dream analysis? Can your dream analysis turn into philosophical midwifery? A majority of dreams are messages about your pathologos. That's division. After doing all of those divisions, can you reflect on all of these experiences to come to some new understanding? And can you apply that new synthesis or synoptic vision, this new conclusion, back to your original definition? So we've got two things at play. We've got understanding at the first part, experience in your demonstration, more experience in your other divisions, And then we take those experience and we unify it with synthesis and analysis, understanding. So understanding, experience, experience, understanding. It's another way of looking at it. Because experience is not as good as if what we can understand, the self, goes beyond experience. That's a puzzle. What's greater, the experience of enlightenment or the understanding of it? Now, Pierre Grimes would say often, experience is dead. It's not experience that affects us. It's our understanding of that. That's why you have to always reflect. And in the many seminars and talks and coffee chats and Friday night talks that I spent with Pierre Grimes, they would all blow my mind. But if I was lucky enough to have another philosopher or person interested in the mind enough to reflect on what I experienced on this Friday night talk or this Saturday morning talk with Dr. Pierre Grimes, then I would find that reflection would open up everything. It would blow it up to a whole different level. And I would really see the immense profundity this man was operating on at all times. It was freaking incredible. But it would always puzzle me that it would be only in the reflection after that I would see all this stuff. But, that's what midwifery is. It's not your experience of your problems, it's how well you reflect on it with this model and method. And as we will learn, it's not when we form these false beliefs, you might have experienced the same thing as your brother or sister, but it's how you understood it. It's the understanding you take away from the experience that causes the false belief. So, and okay, this principle also we take with us to philosophy, because the second hypothesis is the greatest experience of reality in the self. Why is there a first? And how do we go from the second to the first? And what role does understanding play in that? These are all puzzles we have in philosophy. Nevertheless, it seems that understanding might be greater even than our experiences, for lots of reasons. But understanding, experience, understanding, we can see within their model. Yep. So, confirmed it in our experience. Okay, this is the last part. This is interesting because this is this book isn't just for us philosophical adventurers, it's also for the academic world. And this might be to them, I don't know. But it might be just for us. Let's just read it. If science is, we already had that color. This color. If science is the process of confirming hypothesis in our experience and creating mathematical models to understand and predict phenomena. So there is a fun and easy definition of science. What's science? It's confirming hypotheses in experience. Experiments. But not only that, create a mathematical model based on these experiences to understand what you are doing experiments on. And a model ain't worth much if you can't also predict. Not much of a mathematical model if you can't therefore predict what will happen next. Every time I don't know, reduce the temperature of water, it will turn into an ice cube. I know that from an experience. And then I will use mathematical model and say under 0 degrees Celsius, the water turns to be ice. Therefore, I can predict when I go to Antarctica and the temperature is below 0 degrees Celsius, if I pour some water on the ground, it will turn to ice. Okay, really simple example, but you get it. Okay, if that's what science is, what are we doing? Then, do I have a green? There's a green here. Move it up. Then, philosophical midwifery may be considered scientific. However, if it can be if it can be modeled, but no, modeled, but no expression of its dynamics can be presented mathematically, then it's scientific, then it's not scientific but rational. Okay, so that's what we're doing. Is this model that humanity was lacking and why we're in the predicament we're in, individually and as a species? Is this model scientific and rational, or simply rational? And the criteria is, can it be presented on a mathematical model? Might be tricky because we're dealing with human behavior and relationships and blocks to our meaningful goals. Every time I approach this specific goal in the reading of the Meno, I feel, I should be doing something more practical, because that voice comes in of my mother or father and says, you're wasting your time. You're doing empty talk. You need to be digging a hole, physical, not understanding the nature of reality and justice in Meno. Can I represent that limiting, irrational, ruinous, false belief mathematically, or simply rationally within a model of understanding? So that seems to be what makes it scientific or not. Interesting. Maybe we can do it mathematically. Obviously, doesn't really matter. It's what matters is if it works or not and if it's true. But maybe we can. I wonder what difference that will make. So, a lot of questions and puzzles with the conclusion of this first chapter. So, hey, we've got some time. Let's jump into the second chapter and see how that starts. Let's play a sound and do that. So here we go. Chapter 2. Now, this is juicy. For those in the know, this opening paragraph is what is often quoted by philosophers, Noetic Society members, people who are interested in Pierre's work. This opening paragraph is what is quoted. It's a doozy. I remember being in California once, and there was a Canadian documentary crew. I never found out what happened to that Canadian documentary. About, 10, 20 years ago. Maybe 10 or so. They were interviewing Pierre Grimes for something, and I was there helping out. And he started with this. Because I mentioned it. So, I love this quote. I think it might have been on his Facebook profile at the time as well. It's a doozy. This is a doozy. So, strap in for this guy. Anticlimactic with my cough. Let's try that one more time. It is entirely possible to verify for oneself that we are a part of a caring and intelligible universe. The verification is a kind of proof, since it is a way of understanding that is based upon a realization that our mind constantly communicates with us and for our own benefit. The communications from the mind are as profound as they are utterly appropriate to our circumstances. For while the scope of the mind is pervasive, its precision is always directed to what is personally significant. We will demonstrate that our choice of goals, the problems we face, the daydreams or fantasies we have, and the dreams that visit us in our sleep, each and every one of them are like doorways into the richest source of insights into our life. What we discover through these insights is that the mind itself provides ample evidence of its own goodness and intelligibility.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, all of the sound drops are needed for that. So let's highlight some of it. It's entirely possible to bring up the highlighter. There we go. No. So that's a big one, isn't it? What a cool as far as sentences uttered by human beings in the course of all of history. I would rank this one up there in the top 5. Which is saying a lot, because we read a lot of Plato on this channel. It is entirely possible to verify for oneself we are part of a caring and intelligible universe. Already. Home run. All the things we said in the last chapter. You can't understand the universe, you can't understand the self, or there's something that understands the self, and the universe is intelligible. Now that's a tricky word. I struggle with this for many years, so I will help you out with this one. Intelligible means both understandable and knowable. So all those societal beliefs that block us from picking up this quest to chart our way through the mind to identify the cause of our problems and repeating cycles of ruinous behavior and irrational behavior. All those things that say you can't understand the universe. No. You can. But not only understand it, but know it. That's intelligible. Understandable, and what do we mean by knowing? We mean nous. Nous is the direct experience of reality as a whole, or as a synoptic vision, you could call it. So this is the enlightenment experiences. So we've already read a lot about Pierre having various different enlightenment experiences and studying with various different Eastern spiritual teachers. What are they interested in? Well, they're not interested in the logos. They're not interested in understanding. They're interested in enlightenment experiences. That's their whole thing. So that's what we're talking about. Experiencing it, knowing reality as a whole all at once. That's the realm of being. That's the subject for philosophy. That's the whole philosophy game. Okay, what is it? Was that? Intelligible means knowable and understandable. What's another way of understanding knowability? Another way of understanding knowability is to say you can verify for oneself the things that you understand in philosophy. We understand what justice is, what beauty is, what goodness is, all these sorts of things. As a doorway or a method, the dialectic is a method, to directly experience it. As we say in philosophy, you don't send your slave to the banquet. If we're learning about beauty or reality itself, we want to get there, we want to experience it. We are verifying for oneself. And in that experience, we verify that the universe is intelligible. Isn't that cool? So that's what intelligible means. It's a little help for you guys out there, because I struggle with this. Now, maybe I should let you guys struggle with it for years as I did, but I don't know. I know. There's your reward for watching this video, let's say. Don't know if it's a reward if I'm taking away a good question. Anyway, forget I said anything. So verify for oneself that not only is the universe knowable, but caring. Cares about you. So again, spit out that doomer pill, or that black pill. Which means, you know, you think there's no hope for us. Caring. Okay? The verification is a kind of proof. You need to prove this. You don't just, it's not belief. It's not a belief game. That's the cause. Hey, staying at the realm of belief is a problem. Maybe the problem. If we are specifically discovering our beliefs that cause our problems. Anyway. The verification is a proof, since it is a way of understanding. It's a way of understanding. So we're learning a model. There we go. That is based upon a realization. You have this realization yourself. It's an insight that our mind constantly communicates with us and for our benefit. You have to realize this for yourself. We're going to learn how to become aware of it, but you have to experience it, verify it, and come to that realization. So it's a way of understanding that you develop based on your own realization from your own experience. It ain't a faith or belief game. It is better understanding. The communications from the mind. So the mind is communicating are as profound. Oh, we've already said it's from the mind. I have to highlight again. As profound as they are appropriate, utterly appropriate to our circumstances. Something knows everything about you and what you're doing right now and is communicating with you to help you at all times. Earlier today, we talked about the difference between the positive and negative daemon, and I mentioned that the negative daemon is louder and the positive daemon is quieter. If it's constantly communicating for our benefit, our job would be then to be able to hear the quiet one. We've talked about leveling up our understanding, which levels up our vision. So you could say, well, when I was playing that hero adventure game on the computer, I was walking through the forest and I didn't notice anything. I thought it was a boring forest that I was walking through. But then as I leveled up my herbology ability, I noticed that there were all these valuable flowers along the way that I was missing. But now that I developed my skill and my understanding, I noticed them now, but they were there the whole time. They were subtle in amongst the big trees, but I learned to recognize them through developing my understanding, and that affected my vision. So this is the premise of video games, and often in this channel we talk about video games because the principles that make a successful video game lifted from the real hero's journey. Same thing with film and media. If a film really stinks, it's probable that they are not pulling the principles of philosophy out. And if it does well, it likely is. So what we play as reflections, thumbs up, in video games, or we enjoy in popular media, these are all reflections of the true hero's journey. That's what we are on right here. And if we reflect on what we've just read, no doy, of course this is the true hero's journey. It's the very thing that was lacking within humanity that's caused our ruinous behavior and repeating cycles of said irrational ruinous behavior. So of course this would be the ultimate hero's journey, or the archetype. And in our last chapter, we read all the different ways that all of key figures like L. Ron Hubbard and Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell and Alan Watts and various different Eastern spiritual gurus missed this point. And all of human history have missed this point. What? This is the archetype that needs to be understood and mastered. Everything else is a shadow or just taking bits and pieces. Which is why we said this tradition can rival any spiritual tradition we see around us. Or any tradition around us. So no doi. Understanding how to map the model and trace our the forces of our mind back to what maintains our problems. Yeah, of course this would be the ultimate hero's journey. You're not just saving one, I don't know, damsel in distress. You're not just saving one lake from being polluted by the evil capitalist in the film with his top hat on. Shaking his fist at the teens who like to use the town hall for dancing. That's him there. You're not just saving one town hall from being turned into a bank where the kids dance in, and one lake from being polluted by his capitalism. You're literally addressing all problems. Every capitalist, every injustice in the world. So it would be the archetype for all of the things that you see represented as particulars in media and stuff. Why? Because it's a model of understanding human problems. But we're also seeing that, hey, it's also a model that will level up our seeing, that will bring to us, if we keep going, and I encourage you all to keep going in the series, it will bring to you a realization, and using that realization, you will develop this new understanding that our mind constantly communicates for our benefit, and the communications are as profound as they are utterly appropriate to your circumstances. Which means that the scope of the mind, that's not a highlight, that's just a line. Got the wrong thing up here. There we go. There we go. So while the scope of the mind is pervasive, its precision is always directed to what is personally significant. So not only is this whatever this mind thing is that communicates with us at all times, not only is it all pervasive, so speaking of knowing, addressing those false beliefs that say you can't know specific things. Hey, there's something that knows everything. That's called the mind. And not only does it know everything, it's all pervasive, but it directs its power, its knowledge to what is personally significant to us. So that's quite a mind we have access to. Hey, guys. What do you think, Owen Wilson?
Wow. 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 Wow.
Wow. Why does it care so much? Oh, it must be a caring universe. What do you know? Now, this is where we've been learning how to read on our other channel. We start with a kind of trust in the author, with reason, and that was our first chapter. Why even read this guy? Got a lot of reasons to trust him. It's not because he was my daddy or because he was the cool teen pastor when I grew up or because he was the president of my country. No. We have reasons now. But also we don't stop with the reasons to trust. We have to develop our understanding, have the experience, have the realization. And what are we realizing? That the scope of the mind is pervasive. It's always directed to what's personally significant. And it's constantly communicating with us for our benefit. Okay, we will demonstrate that our, okay, lots of things here, that our choice of goals, number one, the problems we face, the daydreams or fantasies we have, and the dreams that visit us in our sleep, each and every one of them are like doorways into the richest sources of insight into our life. Wow. So if this is what we're going to demonstrate, we should write it down. Keep it in mind. Chapter 2. We will demonstrate that. What? Our choice of goals. What goals do you choose to achieve in your life? Or fail to choose to achieve? Your problems we face. Even the problems we face are doorway. What? I thought problems suck and stink and we hate, and we say to them, boo to them, problems, but maybe they can be a doorway into the richest sources of insights into our life. So maybe that's a new way of looking at problems that sees that there is a greater justice in play at the apparent injustices. If we only have a myopic or closed-minded vision, we step back and see the whole, and we have the art of midwifery to unpack our problems, maybe we can turn problems into something that's a doorway into the richest sources of insights in our life. Turn the whole thing around. Imagine that. Imagine wanting a problem to gain an insight into your life, rather than avoiding or hiding or masking our problems. A very different way of being. Hey, what about society that punishes problems? Fines, bad grades, detentions, jails, firing, losing your house, losing your job, all these sort of things are punishments for having a problem. What kind of a world would it be if we actually look forward to seeing problems? Because if we understand it in a certain kind of way, they will open a doorway to the richest sources of insights in our life. What kind of a world would that be? Nobody walking on eggshells and lying that we have problems when we all have problems, every one of us, taking pleasure in the drama of other people so we can throw stones. So finally no one's looking at me if I attack everyone else, like every Republican or conservative politician ever. Every accusation is a confession kind of thing. All these priests that vilify this and that, and they turn out that they're a closeted this and that themselves. What are they doing? Trying to redirect attention so nobody sees my problem, because in this crazy, irrational, harmful world, ruinous behavior world, having a problem is a bad thing. Because everyone gets, oh, I get to play out my injustice on you because that's punishment. Yes, I can be as mean to you. Ha 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 ha. Bollocks to that crap. Doesn't help anyone. And it's all just projection. You want to punish someone else for having a problem as though you don't have problems? That's absurd. You're interested in dramas, other people's problems? Why? To live vicariously so you can be a bully so you're not being bullied yourself? Bollocks. Hey, where do you think wars come from? We started reading about Hitler and stuff early when Pierre faced the Nazis in World War II. What do you think they're doing? Same old crap. But what would be a different kind of a world to live in, where everyone's not lying to each other and trying to avoid being honest about their problems by scapegoating other people? Projecting. Well, what about a world in which we actually seek problems and we use it as an opportunity to gain insight into the mind and ourselves? Actually understand the cause of problems, the networks that support problems, and how to resolve them. and maybe even why we had them in the first place as a soul, and use it to not just evolve as an individual, but address the societal conditions that cause these problems to evolve as a species. What kind of a world would that be? Oh my word. People evolving and learning and not having to abuse each other and project their ignorance and injustice onto others, scapegoating others, getting a sick, sadistic joy in harming others so you can finally be dropping all that crap to actually be rational and evolve and learn. What kind of a utopia would that be? How about a obvious one, a rational one? It's obvious when you say it. So, keep saying it, everybody. Tell your friends, tell your teachers, tell your loved ones. The problems we face, the choice of goals. What else? Daydreams or fantasies? Hey, how many spiritual traditions say, ignore your daydreams, let them float away like a cloud, get back to breathing, get back to counting, get back to the mantra, get back to the koan. How about every daydream's a message sent for a reason by a mind that cares about you? Your mind ain't the enemy. Even in meditation?
Wow.
Wow. Hey, we read about this. Pierre asking people about the specific daydreams and fantasies that blocked their meditation, which actually helped them to understand and resolve it, which led to enlightenment experiences. People, as they say in the circle, popping off or having those experiences, which is usually rare because they're told to ignore the daydreams or fantasies. Move it over a little bit. What do you know? Maybe our mind is not a sickness. Those who play that game. But every daydream or fantasy actually is a profound, caring message sent to us for our benefit and can be seen as a fantasy, as a doorway into the richest insights into our life. What do you know? No more, what do you call that? Self-flagellation? Chastising yourself? Oh, I'm trying to concentrate on X, Y, and Z. And I've been to a lot of different places. Meditate on this candle. Meditate on this image of this holy Indian figure. Meditate on the saying. Dip off the toes to the tip of the head to the top of the toes. What is it? No. Dip off the toes to the top of the head. Repeating that for 7 days without talking. Focus on the flame of the candle. Focus on a mantra you're given. This is a special saying. It's only for you. Here's a koan to wonder about. Oh, but I can't focus on it. Count your breaths. Count to 10. But I can't focus on it because all these daydreams or fantasies come up. Oh, I gotta try harder. Focus my chi. Focus my chi. Now, some people do that and they develop a way of focusing their breathing and their hara or hatha or chi and can push through and have various experiences, but they're missing all of this profound benefit about what's actually blocking them from having from being there naturally. So therefore they have to force through or push through or whatever. What if every daydream or fantasy, even while on the mat, is a message? Wow, no more. We talked about problems we face and being punished by others, but here we have punishing yourselves. Why can't I focus in school? Why can't I focus while meditating? Why can't I focus while I read? Because you suck and you need to try harder. Like a teacher says, pay more attention. What do? Squeeze your fists, your little fists, because you're a little primary school kid. And the teacher says, hey, pay attention. Oh, but I am. Oh, pay attention harder. Oh, look how hard I'm paying attention. Nonsense. How about, let's have a look at these daydreams and fantasies that distract you from your goals. Because they may just be a profound and caring and precisely directed message for your own benefit from a profound, intelligible, caring universe, and can be seen as a gateway to insights into your own life. So no more beating up others with problems, and no more beating yourself up with your internal daydreams or fantasies. Sound good? The dreams that visit us in our sleep. Our dreams. In sleep. All of these are doorways into the richest source of insights into our life. You want an insight into your life? You can't have it. You can't have one unless you have a goal that you've chosen, unless you have a problem, unless you have a daydream or a fantasy, unless you have dreams. If you don't have any of those, no insights for you. No insights for you. If you do have these things, then you're in luck. Whoop. You're in luck. We are in luck. So, what we discover through these insights is, what are we going to discover? When we learn to listen to those things that are always there anyway, we just haven't been told that they're worth listening to because we've been educated by an irrational culture that was opposed to the teachings of Socrates and played out its ruinous behaviors without ever reflecting on its causes and learning from its problems. Those guys were your teachers. Sorry, but this was the time period in which you're born. You were born here for a reason. Maybe it's important for you to learn from scratch. Well, not from scratch. We're starting with Pierre and Socrates. So starting from a culture which is ignorant to these things. All right, so we're learning to pay attention. We're learning to listen and understand and have the insights and have the experiences and use those to verify and prove. The nature of reality is caring and intelligible and always communicating to us for our benefit. Wow.
Wow.
What we discover through these insights is the mind itself provides ample evidence of its own goodness and intelligibility. So we're looking for evidence to verify that we are living in a reality, in a universe that is intelligible, caring, profound, all-pervasive, yet personally precise, constantly communicating in every possible way to us for our benefit. So that's where we're looking to. Where are we going to get the evidence from? Test tube? No. Mind itself. That thing that's all-pervasive? Yep. So we can find evidence everywhere? Yep. But it's pervasive in every possible way? Yep. So every possible moment is a possibility for evidence? Yep. And that evidence will be a kind of insight? Yep. That will but we can create a new way of understanding based on? Yep. But at all times? Yep. Because it's all pervasive, right? Yep. But I can access it at all times because even though it's all pervasive, it's personally directed to me. Yep. And it's directed to me in a way that I have the potential to understand because it actually cares about me. Oh yeah. And what I'm dealing with in my life, what's personally significant to me in my circumstances right now. Oh yeah. So literally everything I do, I can gain insight to develop a new way of understanding based on my own experiences that can prove what I'm learning and reading here. Oh yeah. Everything? Well, it is all pervasive, right? How can it be everything? Well, didn't we just say everything you do, you'll be seeking a goal, right? Is a goal something that you'll be doing at each moment? Yeah, there you go. A possibility for a doorway into the richest source of insight into your life, just by having a goal. What do you know? Ever had a problem? Yeah, all the time. I've actually been diagnosed with a word that means I'm always anxious, or I'm always depressed, or I'm always this, or always that. Well, you've got to always you have a possibility for a deep insight into the nature of self and reality. Ever had a daydream or fantasy? When have I not? There you go. So always. Okay, smart guy, what if I'm sleeping? Even when you sleep, you are getting possibilities for richest insights into your own life. In your own, in your own direct experience. Giving you realizations to develop a new way of understanding that the mind constantly communicates to you for your own benefit. Profound intelligence that's completely intelligible and is the whole universe. Knows everything in the universe. There's your evidence for your new system that man was lacking, that made it irrational and stupid and barbaric, repeating its problems without learning. This is the problem at the core of any spiritual or academic tradition that lacks this understanding of the mind at this level. Ample evidence coming from what? Some authority figure? Nope. Mind itself. At all times, always. It's up to you to listen. It's always there and gives you all the evidence. Not faith, not belief, not even trust. Evidence. Insight, experience, understanding. Verification and proof. Wow.
Wow.
And so ultimately, when you have done this, you've applied it to your goals, your problems, your dreams, your daydreams, your fantasies. What do we say? We have the experience is dead. It's our reflection on the experience that makes it important. Once you've defined it, there's your understanding. You've demonstrated in an experience. You've seen it in all those areas. Then you reflect on it. There's your understanding. That's where we finish. Reflect on it to come to a conclusion about the mind that you've defined. A new conclusion that the mind is providing ample evidence for its own what? Goodness and intelligibility. So there's our living dialectic that we have the opportunity to do at all times. At all times? Well, it's pervasive. Yep. At all times? Yep. Everything? Yep. No need for just faith or belief? Nope. Understanding and insight? Yep. Experience? Yep. Proof? Yep. Because the mind communicates with us always, all pervasively and specifically, beneficially, specifically directed to what's significant to you personally? Yep. that you can experience and verify and prove and develop an understanding on? Yep. You can apply it to every moment of your life, even while asleep? Yep. And after doing that, you can reflect on the whole process you've gone through to come to a new conclusion about reality and mind being both intelligible and good? Yep. And if doing so, you're living the dialectic? Yep. Which is what you're here to do? Yep. And if you keep practicing it yourself and with your friends in the Discord community that we have and on the channel, then you will develop an art of doing this? Yep. The very thing that will turn us from barbarians into rational human beings? Yep. Solve the world's problems? Yep. And do what Socrates says is our job for being here, the kind of education and nurture, understanding and experience that we can take with us into our next life and to our spiritual evolution beyond this particular life? Yep. Really? Yeah. Well, that's amazing. That's why we have confetti. See? Yes, it's amazing. That's why we have confetti. And sometimes we have balloons. Oh, and fireworks. Fireworks. And sometimes we have balloons. Because of how amazing that reflection was. And why we say thank you so much for the great man Pierre. And thank you so much for everybody joining us on this adventure together in this channel. You're the best. So, wow, we're going to do all that in this one book? Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Pretty amazing. Okay, how are we going to demonstrate these claims? Oops, that's not a highlighter. How are we going to demonstrate all these claims? Because that was one heck of a paragraph. Now, before I read it, just after I read it, I said, as far as paragraphs uttered or written by a human being in the course of human history and all of human civilization, I'd put this one up there. I'd put this one quite high up on the list. And maybe from that experience, that definition reading it, demonstration applying it to our lives, that breaking it down in division with these highlighting and stuff, all this highlighting and stuff, and then the final little skit that I did of two people talking to each other, or to synthesize, unify what we just divided up into pieces, and analyze back to what we are doing here. So we did a dialectic on that paragraph. Maybe we can see why it's up there as one of the greatest paragraphs ever written by a human being, and why this Dr. Pierre Grimes is such a genius and gift to humanity. A round of applause for him.
Wow.
All right. So how are we going to demonstrate these claims as the next sentence? The demonstration of these claims is essential. How are we going to demonstrate all that? Because wow. Well, there is a cliffhanger if ever I have heard one. So be sure to join in next time for the next episode of Philosophical Midwifery, where we find out how the heck we're going to demonstrate those, because that seems to be a key turning point, watershed moment for our lives, our souls, us readers here, and also maybe human civilization as a whole. But hey, doesn't matter if human civilization doesn't come along with us on the ride. That's secondary. What's important is that we get to do it ourselves. Our learning and development is not based on whether or not other people come along. Pierre Grimes is an example of this. Socrates is an example of this. Who knows where they are right now, but maybe we have the potential to meet both of them if we do this ourselves, whether or not the rest of the world comes along. Hey, worth sharing though. Did you benefit from coming across this channel? Then maybe there are others who will too. Nevertheless, we are on this quest for our souls and the good that we can do for ourselves and maybe those we can reach with the art ourselves too. But for our souls primarily. So this is going to be demonstrated, says in the first couple of words of the next sentence. Let's see how we're going to do that. There's our cliffhanger. Thank you so much for joining. Join on Discord if you like this stuff and you want to join a community where you can share your questions, thoughts, insights, experiences, verifications, proofs, and practice the art of midwifery with other people on the quest. So join our Discord. You get notifications when we go live. Like and subscribe on YouTube. You find a big back catalog of other readings we've done on YouTube. Join on Twitch. It's fun. We've got a Twitch community. People who join in, have fun, ask questions. That's really cool. You can support on Patreon if you have the means. And if you want to donate, there should be a donation link somewhere below, I think on the Twitch website. So thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you're excited and you will join us next time. Thanks a lot. Fun. Isn't it fun? I think it's fun.